Okay, so next thing, I know we ran a little bit long with the episode so far, but we're going to be talking about snubs. Um, Snubs as in like categories that or movies that probably should have been mentioned or should have been at least nominated that didn't really get up there. I know we mentioned some with Wonder Woman.
Disaster Artist.
Disaster Artist was another.
I mean, the reason's pretty obvious for that, but I mean,
right. But like one of the main things is like comic book movies are notoriously known to get snubbed at the Oscars.
it's comparison time,
Right.
In what circles? Like comic book circles?
No, just like in the
Well, I want to say
Oscar-
there is a reason they get snubbed. I mean, this year we did have Logan.
we had Logan, yes.
But at the same time, for every Logan, we have an X3 Last Stand. We have Age of Apocalypse. Not all of them are worthy for that. I mean, luckily now we've evolved to the point where like Black Panther has a strong chance to have at least 3 categories to be nominated for. Mm-hmm. But I mean, looking back, like you can't really say, hey, a Holmes argument, with the Thors, the Thor trilogy. I mean, it's not a strong case. You can't have those in the.
I mean, of course, you can pick and choose movies, but I mean, you could. We're talking more about those movies that are more memorable, like Wonder Woman, for one instance, right? That people are kind of like upset that it didn't even get considered to be nominated.
Well, which categories would?
I don't know. Like personally, I would.
I heard CGI was pretty good.
I loved Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
but like I can't.
I mean,
I won't trust Warner Bros.
If I had a personal list, I'd probably put Patty Jenkins as like a nominee for Best Director. Okay. Maybe that's a little far fetched in reality, but that would be my.
I think they had to pick 5, and she was maybe 6.
Maybe
there was others that
but there are also other films.
And
like,
again,
there are also other films in the past, not just talking about this year, like Civil War. I didn't hear anything about like.
and
look, Civil War is a great film. I give it they had a 20-minute fighting sequence, but if I were to really sit down and judge it and try to find a category. I don't think I could find one.
Well, and I'll give you a good example here. I've actually written
maybe
down
score.
One. I wrote one down here.
Cinematography with the action scenes, would that incorporate?
Well,
cinematography is more like the picturesque things, but
compared, it's close. It's tough.
Editing,
But see, this is what we're saying. Like, if you have to literally sit down and try to figure it out.
I'm definitely a team. No comic book movies in the Oscars. No, I mean if it's in there, it's in there because there are cases like obviously Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Who did win? For Dark Knight.
He won.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
And that's being a DC film. So
I'm sorry.
I mean, there has been cases where comic book, but it has to really like stand out.
Yeah.
I mean, for that one to be there, we had to go through Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
That should have won Best
Jim
Supporting
Carrey
Actor.
as Riddler. You know what I mean?
Freeze. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Yo, Arnold Schwarzenegger bodied that movie, bro.
it's like every other moon. We get the opportunity.
But I mean, it's also not just like we could probably go through back and maybe not win a category, but just at least be nominated. Yeah. Like this has been the decade of
comic book movies.
Yeah. Right, so to say that
to still not be putting them in
exactly
is like saying like
it's kind of like what
not a full acceptance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because that's what this decade is characterized.
Yeah, and I have some. I actually was trying to get to it, but it's like I actually have some good. I believe people that could or actresses that could have been nominated for categories. I think that there's some supporting role actors, actresses that could have been up, like in Logan. I think Daphne Keane, who played X-23, definitely could have been up for Best Supporting Actress.
Oh yeah, of course.
She's young, but I think she did a phenomenal job, and so did Patrick Stewart as Professor X in that film. I think either of them could have been put into this. Supporting actress, supporting actor.
He did have a heartbreaking performance.
Yeah.
Like
it was insane. It was rough. And
when he mentioned the Taco Bell commercial.
Oh, that truly heartbreaking.
And that's just an example of I think what a comic book movie can be, and we've had other examples of great portrayals of characters. One recently, obviously it's not for 2017, but 2018, we had some great characters from the Black Panther film, which just came out last month, as in Killmonger, who also could possibly for this
Michael
year.
B. Jordan.
Yes. You know, and I think it's just a trend that, you know, that's why we were talking about when we started this podcast today for Oscars, and how we had a real difference from past Oscars where we saw a lot more diverse films and people being actors being nominated for films that we usually aren't used to from the past.
Right, because there's a push. I mean, as we said, you got a science fiction movie, you got sea creatures,
right? And science fiction is one of those genres that gets snubbed regularly.
Yeah, and then what else is in there? You got Kobe masturbating.
Bruh.
You've got
Horror.
You got horror. Yeah, right. You got, and then Get Out obviously has the horror and the comedy, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, there's lots of representation within this year's just through their own merit.
Yeah.
And not for diversity's sake entirely. I'm sure there's an element to that.
Yeah,
Fish
yeah.
people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Guillermo del Toro said, you know, we got to erase the lines in the sand, and if this Oscars any, you know, show that, you know, we're doing that, is we're getting more diverse. I mean, we actually had a comic book movie nominated, Logan. You know, I mean, just for example, look how hard women have been fighting to, you know, get those, you know, best director role or anything. You know, we're slowly pushing the agenda, and we're moving forward.
Now, yeah,
But,
definitely.
I mean, with comic book movies in the past, Oscar worthy, some not really.
Yeah, Dark Knight.
Movie now, like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
But now we have Black Panther, where we can actually see, okay, there's, you know, these nominees can be chosen for this film. So I think moving forward with comic book films, there is a chance.
Yeah, and once again, it also depends on just how the movie does.
Yeah.
Like Daphne King for supporting actress. I mean, they could have picked 5. She was probably 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. So we did reference to Dark Knight and stuff. I mean, that's one of the movies. I didn't mean to say it as in like, no, Kenny's wrong. I meant to say like, hey, this is like one of the few movies that have surfaced in the genre that have been nominated and awarded.
Right.
But before like in the moment, circa 2007 or whatever, when The Dark Knight came out, did you guys consider that a comic book movie?
To a degree, yes, because it did have Batman. But I think if you would have put him, I don't know, really fancy gadgets and put him in a suit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it could. It's Christopher Nolan bases most his movies on realistic or realism, you know, to a certain degree, where it's like he uses hardcore facts to back up his films.
Yeah.
To answer your question, and honestly, no. I almost forgot. Yeah. Mostly because, you know, with Heath Ledger's performance, what I got more from it was, you know, they were playing on the theme of corruption. Mm-hmm. You know, that anybody could be corrupted no matter, you know, how good you are. Mm-hmm. And going from, you know, being a good person so long that you end up being the bad guy.
Yeah, I always get crazy looks when I say like the city of Gotham was basically its own character. Like the setting in The Dark Knight had such a huge role. I thought it was bigger than the Joker and bigger than Batman, because that's what their end game was about, basically. I mean, because you were seeing both of their philosophies being enacted upon the city and how it would react. And I think
now was shown in the city. The city was their personalities.
Now that you point out, there was a lot of sets, like, you know, the hospital, the 2 boats, the bridge.
And the 2 boats is when it all comes to a head, basically. Yeah. And that's when you really got to see. But even before then, like when people were reacting to Batman being a vigilante, and then the fact that Joker took advantage of that and like killed like the fat dude dressed up as Batman, right? Like, you know, stuff like that. Seeing how the city reacts to an influence like Batman, and how the Joker reacts to that, like, and how that'll culminate. You know, it's like, you know, I'm just glad I'm not getting crazy looks today. Yeah. Second question.
We understand movies.
Yeah, thank you. I'm on the right podcast. But yeah, also, I kind of feel like the comic book movie genre didn't really get defined until like Iron Man and the MCU really came around. Yeah. Like I don't really feel like that was really a term thrown around. Even with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, it never really felt like oh this is a flag in the ground for comic book movies. Like oh no, Spider-Man is fucking dope, man.
Yeah.
Like,
same thing with the X-Men films. Yeah. And even with the first few MCU films that actually came out, I think it was tough to make a case for it, just because it was like, they were just comic book films,
Right, they're
based
kind of
around a single,
standalone, right?
standalone about a
Yeah.
character origin story.
Yeah, I think with Iron Man though, for me at least personally, I think when they took something as obscure relatively to American pop culture as Iron Man is, and made him a superstar with Robert Downey Jr., I do think that's like, okay, this is a comic book movie. We're pulling out Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, whereas, I mean, they've had Hulk in the past, and like, everybody fucking knows Hulk. Everybody knows Superman.
Yeah.
You know, this, that, and the third. Everybody knows Batman. Everybody
Iron Man
knows
who?
Spider-Man. Yeah, but Iron Man, Tony Stark. Who's
Like, who
that?
were the Guardians of the Galaxy type question?
Right. And
that's another film that I feel was snubbed when it was released. Because
first one or second one?
First one. Because
Okay.
that year, when didn't you hear about Guardians of the Galaxy that summer?
Well, I mean, it's probably been the best Star Wars movie since for a long time.
Since The Empire Strikes Back.
Revenge of the Jedi.
Revenge of the Jedi. Yeah.
You got it wrong.
Return of the Jedi.
Revenge of the Sith.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith.
The second question I got: how much do you guys think the comic book thing, or as far as getting snubbed with the Academy, how much do you think of that is just due to its blockbuster nature? Because the Academy tends to not go like all in on blockbusters. Like
They don't look at the numbers.
right, with all of Manny's news segments, I haven't really heard Shape of Water too often in the top 5. You know, all of these movies, like you're going like, huh, what, who?
Oh yeah, I didn't hear about 3 Billboards until this week.
Right.
Hey, Shape of Water was top 3.
And I see what you're talking about there, and it also comes to I think a standpoint. Where do we draw the line in the sand where it's just how much do we take popularity of films and people who go to watch it into account? I mean, is it you have 10,000 people to go watch, you know, which is an example, which is probably not factual, but 10,000 people to go watch, you know, Shape of Water.
Yeah.
And the score is a 96 on Rotten Tomatoes. But you have over, I don't know, 20 million people that go watch Black Panther and it gets 96.
Black Panther.
So which one weighs heavier on the scale of which is the better film?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the snobbiness coming from the numbers they're doing, or is just the subject nature? Because I think we're seeing the subject, like as we mentioned, the sci-fi comedy.
Yeah,
blah, blah,
yeah.
blah, like that's becoming more acceptable in there. Like, is the comic book argument comic books, or is it the Academy just kind of being quote unquote hipsters or whatever?
I would say
and avoiding the
I
big
would
popular
personally say more
blockbusters.
of a subject nature, because as soon as you see like the Marvel tagline, it's like, okay, it's another comic book movie, right?
branding.
And
Yeah.
it comes,
And you don't necessarily look at it as a film, right? Black Panther was just one of those.
I think of it as a marketing entity.
right?
and you also got to think about it. It's Oscars. It's a traditional thing, right?
Right.
And where you have typically the same film type of films, type of
All right.
actors, type of actresses, type of backstories, type of everything. And I think that's where Hollywood Hollywood is trying to break that mold and to be more acceptance of these different types of things. Where sometimes you have one rose that grows out of that concrete, but this is like now we're really trying to like break it kind of open and get these other kinds of looks from different films, different filmmakers, and people who are out there with their creativity and bringing a whole new look, right?
Yeah, somebody's been reading their Tupac poetry book
All the time.
But you guys got to remember, this ain't the People Choice Awards. If you guys want Civil War to win Best Picture,
I don't.
go tune in to Nickelodeon.
Right.
This
And
is
we're
a
not-
group of people that the Academy.
And we're not advocating that every single Marvel movie that gets released during the year has to be considered for a nomination.
I don't know.
It's-
Batman versus Superman was pretty good.
Okay,
That shit.
stop it.
Oh my god, Martha.
But like, there are some like diamonds in the rough when it comes to those movies, right? There are some films
Yeah, that's
that
what I'm saying.
do hit home, that
Yeah.
do maybe extend out and reach that higher echelon of films.
Yeah.
And can we say that maybe they've gotten snubbed in the past just because they're stuck within the Marvel moniker? Probably so. It'd be very interesting to see what Black Panther does,
Yeah.
especially since it's so highly regarded. Everybody loves the film. And see what categories it gets going into next year.
And not just categories, because we've seen films in the past that are different from the mold be nominated for such categories as best visual effects, best original screenplay or whatever. But I think what we need to start seeing is these films being nominated for best actor, best director, best
Yeah, like when
film
the
awards,
big ticket awards.
the big ticket awards. You know, I think it's deserving. So, especially if their impact is big enough, you know, like a Wonder Woman or a Black Panther.
Yeah,
I mean, that's typically what a lot of these films that do win big at the Oscars have, you know, what their tone of the film is about in the first place, you know?
right. I think that's what's cool about Get Out winning best
screenplay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great example. Yes.
Especially because it's in two genres that normally don't really do well in the Oscars. It has horror and comedy.
Yeah,
Those two genres historically have had terrible times
absolutely.
in the Oscars.
Yeah. Did you guys? Was there anything that leapt off the page? There's kind of like an Oscar tradition to award a mediocre movie or performance, and then like retroactively, like you kind of look back and like, was Forrest Gump better than Shawshank Redemption? You know, like, was there any? Did you guys see anything like that? Was there any Shawshank Redemption?
There was a couple. I mean, not this year, but in the past there was for me, but I can't remember them.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I fucked
As
up.
far
Right.
as this year,
Fate of the Furious 8.
Oh, it's a good one.
I mean, as far as this year goes, I might say the best, and I'm just spitting out stuff at this time. Best actress probably could be argued. While I do think Frances McDormand's performance is spectacular, like you mentioned before, Shape of Water also had a really incredibly good actress.
Yes.
That could definitely be one of those things that could be like flip-flopped around, right?
Yeah, just on face value, I'm not willing to jump onto that far. As I mean, I know you're not either.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, like, that's probably the closest for
The
this
Academy
year.
probably had a hard time choosing as well.
Yeah.
What about you, Holmes?
No.
Did you have something that you were thinking maybe possibly I like it, but was it necessarily?
No, I mean, like as I asked you guys, because looking at the list of the winners, like I'm really like, you know, I don't have a lot of controversy. Usually around these like award seasons, even the Grammys and stuff.
I assumed that Call Me by Your Name would have won an award.
Okay.
That's probably the only one I have.
Me, probably it. I think it did really well for the movies that came out for the year, but
That's a good one.
it was also
really
stuck
good
in
one.
a genre that usually gets overlooked.
Maybe even costume design.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I think Skarsgård did a great job.
Yeah.
It surprised me that Dunkirk stood the test of time. I mean, for a movie that came out around the summertime to
Yeah.
actually last up to this long.
Same for Logan.
surprised me.
Even for
Yeah,
Logan.
Logan was a
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I mean,
Or
you
for
know,
Planet of the Apes, too, for visual effects.
I mean, the fall, that's Oscar bait season, right? And there's a lot of, I mean, Shape of Water, that was winter or fall.
Yeah.
they planned that one.
But yeah, of course they planned that. But you know, I mean, Coke. When did Coco
Coco
come?
came out in right during Thanksgiving.
Yeah, November.
I mean,
During Dia de los Muertos.
as he said, Dunkirk. You know, I mean, there's not a shit ton of Oscar bait.
Get Out
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I mean, Get Out came out stupid early.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much controversy. I wouldn't really have anything to fight with this year's Oscars.
Yeah.
One of your more favorite Baby Drivers came out early in the summer.
Yeah, that was a summer.
So,
that was
you
a
know,
pop. Pop. As I said, it was a great pop song. I'm serious.
Dunkirk. Yeah,
I'm serious, man.
Baby Driver would not have been the same without the music.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how to enjoy it too. You know, yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. I'm curious to see what the cult movies that come out of this year are going to be.
Yeah.
You know, because there's always something that's critically panned or you know, I mean, fucking Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane's considered, you know, the greatest movie ever, whatever, revolutionary. It's my favorite movie when I see it. But you know, that didn't win anything.
Yeah, right.
You know,
just
like,
never know with these
But look
things.
at when it came out too.
yeah. I mean, but still, but the Academy has a history of this.
Yeah, no, they do have a history of it.
They fuck up.
Like,
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's-
Al Pacino won Best Actor for going hoo-ah or something like
Right.
that.
I mean, I'd say for this year, it's definitely a step in the right direction. We just have to see what happens next year, honestly.
Wait, didn't Colin Kaepernick do an Al Pacino impression?
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised.
But again, yeah, satisfied with the nominations this year and people who won. I think it was a refreshing take. Nothing like the Grammys a couple of years ago when Macklemore just snubbed Kendrick Lamar for Best Rap Album of the Year.
No, exactly.
I threw a tantrum for sure.
The worst part was him texting. It's like,
sorry, bro. You should have won.
Like, you know what? How about you mail me that fucking award? Get that replaque.
Right, exactly.
Oh, wait, no.
Wait, what was the album that he did for that?
Good Kid, Mad City. Didn't
okay,
win.
because if it was Pimp a Butterfly,
was
then
it a Good Kid or
he should have lost.
They felt sorry for him, so when To Pimp a Butterfly came out, they gave him the award for that.
Okay.
Serious?
Which was a good album, but still just like, all right.
It wasn't as good as Mad City though.
Depending.
This is a movie. Depends
on what you're going for. but
yeah, I get what you mean.
We like to delve in the realm of
we could drag
sometimes.
this an hour longer if you wanted, but
well, I know. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the main focus of this is just we hope to see what comes next year, right?
Absolutely.